Am I a month late? Yes. Just be glad it's me, not your period. Am I right, ladies?
Boo, you suck.
Just get on with it.
Oi, where's the shadowhunters?
Okay, I'll start. Gosh. Welcome to the first ever annual Bree Book Awards. Yeah, we love you so much. You're so funny. Ahaha. Okay, so I wanted to do a what I read this year video so I could just talk about the books I've read, but I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. So we're gonna break this up into 3 parts. Part 1, Bree's Bookify Wrapped. Okay, so this year I picked up and started reading a total of 38 books. And of those 38, I completed reading 34. Therefore, I DNF'd 4 books. Of these 34 books, 34 were written by women, and 0 were written by men, which I think is just so slay of me. This is an ongoing trend for me. Let's keep it up, ladies. Let's keep it up. Okay, splitting things up by genre. Of the 38 books I picked up, 2 were contemporary romance, 5 were... This is such a dirty screen. Oh God, when was the last time I cleaned... 5 were sci-fi, 9 were dystopian, and the remaining 22 were fantasy. In the fantasy category, 9 were urban fantasy, and the remaining 13, I know numbers. I'm so good with numbers, guys, and I'm so good with words too. I'm so good at everything. Please believe me. The remaining 13 were just fantasy. I wouldn't consider, I don't know whether you would consider some of these books high fantasy, to be honest. Next, of the 38 books I picked up, 34 were in the YA category, and the remaining 4 were adult novels. I'm 26 years old, by the way, guys. I was 25 last year, though, so that's still a young adult. Now I'm old. I was young before. Okay, this next one hurts my soul a little bit. Of the 38 books I picked up, 19 were new books, and the remaining 19 were books I had already read before, because a bitch loves rereading. Because why would I read a book that I might hate when I could just read a book that I already know I will love? Exactly. Also, rereading requires like significantly less thinking and paying attention, which is great because those are 2 things that I struggle with, especially because I tend to listen to the audiobooks for a lot of these books and listen to them while I'm like driving to and from work or doing chores and multitasking. So, you know, it's a little bit easier when it's a book you already know the plot of, so if you miss a few lines, you're fine. It's a problem. I need to work on it. And last but not least, the average rating for the books I read this year was 3.2667. Slightly above average, so I'd consider that a pretty solid year. Wow, them some numbers. Amazing. Okay, time to actually go over the books that I read and my thoughts on them. Part 2. I didn't use Goodreads, I just kind of kept track of the books I read by putting it in a list on my notes app on my phone. So like, the dates that I started and finished reading them, who knows? We're just gonna guesstimate with the month. So, January 2025. I finally finished reading with my little sister, City of Heavenly Fire. Now, if you're for some reason watching this and have no clue what the Mortal Instruments is and have never heard of this book before in your life, hi, my name's Bree, nice to meet ya. I mean, it's nice for me to meet you. It's probably not nice for you to meet me. You're probably already tired of me. Okay, where do I start? The Mortal Instruments is an urban fantasy series that came out from 2008 to 2014 about shadowhunters, aka half-human, half-angel beings who fight demons for a living, yada yada. No, the book is not about incest. Yes, there is a significant amount of incest. This is the last book in this series. See, that's the main character, Clary, and that's her brother who doesn't want to bang her. Don't worry about it. My little sister and I have slowly been making our way through the Shadowhunter Chronicles together. I've been reading them out loud to her, and it took us like a year of on and off reading to find time to read it together because we like to discuss as we go, and we're both very busy people with very little free time. Her less than me. I will not rank this book because I have nostalgia for it, so I don't think it would be fair. That being said, I feel like I remembered it being better / more interesting and fast-paced than it was this time that I read it. I think the having to read it slowly over the course of the year probably affected the momentum of the book though. And also the fact that I know the ending and stuff might have taken away some of that punch. But like, I still think it was a pretty solid conclusion to the Mortal Instruments. Like it did what it needed to do. The emotions didn't hit me as hard as it did the first time I read it back in 2014, but also I'm no longer a 14-year-old girl reading this conclusion to a series she loves for the first time. So I also read City of Fallen Angels and City of Lost Souls, books 4 and 5 in the series, as part of writing the script for the videos that I make for the YouTube channel. So those don't really count, but like I did read them, but I'm not ranking them, but I did read them. Not in January, but like I'm just lumping them in together. Cool, that's January. Okay, February/March 2025. This was a very dystopian heavy reading period for me. And if you're wondering what set that off, you know what happened at the end of January 2025? A certain bitch got sworn in as president of this stupid country is what happened. And I coped by reading about children getting murdered and tyrannical governments, so, you know, to escape. So I reread The Hunger Games for the first time since maybe like middle school, honestly? Maybe high school. God, I'm old. I read them in preparation for Sunrise and the Reaping coming out, and oh my god, so good. Oh, so good. The Hunger Games are like a solid 5 stars for me. Okay, I won't care what the rest of you bitches think. Modern classics, in my humble, uninformed opinion, take me back to 2012 when I was a 12-year-old girl in middle school reading the Hunger Games series for the first time before going to see the movie in theaters, wearing my little Mockingjay pin. Oh, back when we still had hope for the world. God. The more years go on, the more I'm just like, wow, The Hunger Games, so relevant. There's a lot, like the movies are pretty great adaptations, but there's a lot of stuff that the movies simply could not fit in. And so if you haven't reread The Hunger Games in a while, like go do it. And if you haven't read them at all in the year of our Lord 2026, like the f are you doing? Good books. And then Sunrise on the Reaping came out and I did a reading vlog, which was definitely the fastest long video I've ever made in my entire life. If you want to watch that, actually, don't. Yeah, I needed to get the emotions out somehow, and like this book made me cry so hard, and like, you know what, like whatever, like you guys have seen me cry plenty on this channel, like, and it's just me with my like stupid little brain being like, oh, maybe this will happen. But I thought it was just very clever of Suzanne Collins with Sunrise, what she did and how she was able to put a new spin on a Hunger Game that we already knew the outcome of. We already knew Haymitch's story from the original Hunger Games trilogy, and in Catching Fire, Katniss and Peeta literally watched the tape of his games. But then the whole point of Sunrise was to focus on the Capitol's propaganda and how we didn't actually know the behind the scenes and how we, the readers, kind of fell for the Capitol's propaganda and shouldn't have taken what we read for face value, which is like, Suzanne Collins, you f***ing genius. Also, am I easily impressed because I haven't read a ton of like actually good books, because 99% of what I read is YA fantasy? Yes. Do I still think that it was a genuinely good book and that someone who regularly reads good books would agree with me? Also yes. Just, oh god. The themes. Just the discussion on implicit submission during this very trying year that we've had in America just really hit hard. I have a very long document on my laptop with just like an essay on this book, except I wasn't like an English major back in school. Like, I'm sure that anything I said, it has been said by a lot smarter people. So I ended up not making a video on it, but I had a lot to say about this. And then I let the quality dip real low because I went from Sunrise on the Reaping to, oh god, let me get this. The Lunar Chronicles. And this was my second time in my life reading this series. The Lunar Chronicles is a YA sci-fi, but also kind of fantasy series that are also fairy tale retellings. It's a lot. There's a lot going on with these books. And each book follows a different fairy tale, but it's like a sci-fi version of the fairy tale. And so it takes place in the future where there's cyborgs and androids and the Lunars, who are people who colonize the moon and develop these cool mind control powers over generations. And so obviously there's the threat of war from the Lunars because they want to take over the Earth. And they can mind control the Earthlings, and they have all this technology and stuff. And so that's the overarching plot, is the war that the Lunar Queen is trying to start and stuff. But then there's also the smaller fairy tales of these characters, and each book has its own main character, but then they all end up meeting and joining forces as they go on, which is fun. So the first book is Cinder, and it follows a cyborg named Cinder, who's a mechanic, and she's secretly hired one day by the Crown Prince of New Beijing. I'll get back to that. My bad, I meant the Prince of the Eastern Commonwealth, which is like the empire, and then New Beijing's like the capital. To fix one of his androids, because he's trying to find out what happened to the lost lunar princess. I wonder who that could be. And it's a Cinderella retelling, of course. But there's also this plague that's been rampant and killing the Earthlings that they're trying to find a cure for. And then the second book, Scarlet, is a Red Riding Hood retelling. And then the third book, Cress, is my favorite, which is a Rapunzel retelling. And the fourth one, Winter, is a Snow White retelling. That's my girl right there. There's also a novella called Fairest, which is like the evil queen origin story. So that's the evil queen, Lavanna. She's a bitch. So I'm like trying to give my review without spoiling things. This series is like a 3.5 to 4-star read in terms of enjoyment for me. In terms of quality, it's probably more like a 2.75 maybe. Like I really do enjoy reading it, but it's extremely predictable, which makes sense because the plots are based off of fairy tales, which we already know. And it has very questionable world building, like really, really bad world building. The name of the city that Cinder is from is New Beijing. And then like the United Kingdom is its own country, but then all of Africa is just lumped together into Africa. Make it make sense. Marissa Maya, what are you doing? This series honestly feels more middle grade than YA, but I know why it's marketed as YA because like it has like a decent amount of like violence and stuff. Multiple characters like lose fingers and stuff. But I don't think it's anything that would freak out middle schoolers. Like this is definitely a series that would be good for middle schoolers. Like if I had first read the series in middle school, like my friend Layla had told me to do before she moved to Australia in 8th grade, why did you leave me, Layla? It probably would have been a really big obsession for me and I probably would have been like a lot more attached to the series. But like my favorite part of the series is just this fun cast of characters who end up crossing paths and teaming up, and they have this spaceship and they're avoiding the Lunars and on the run from the human police, and they're just trying to save the world and do heists. And it's also a bit of his dystopian series too, especially in winter where they're trying to have this big revolution and there's the missing lunar princess. I wonder who's the missing lunar princess. Gee, I wonder who the missing lunar... The author is like also a big Sailor Moon fan, and so if you like Sailor Moon, you might like this series. Like I haven't watched Sailor Moon, but like from my understanding, if you like Sailor Moon, you will like this series. This series just kind of feels like if you were like playing D&D with a group of Disney nerds. And if that sounds like a nightmare to you, like don't read the series. But also Captain Thorn is me. I am him. Like I am Captain Thorn. That guy is the funniest fucker on this planet and I love him. I also loved Winter. I thought she was so funny. It's just so fun to have this Disney princess-esque character who's like teamed up with these like serious characters, and she's just talking to her pet wolf like, "Hello, little friend. The walls have been bleeding for years, but nobody believes me." And it's just, I don't know, I love her. I also thought that the battle scenes were pretty fun with the mind control powers and stuff. I don't know, it's a really light and fast-paced read if you're looking for something with like a cool sci-fi aesthetic. And I will not lie, it was the covers that made me read it. Like these new covers are so gorgeous. Like I took one look at this cover and I was like, damn, maybe I should read the Lunar Chronicles. There's also this short story collection. I didn't include this in the books, but gorgeous cover. Okay, so then in April I decided to pivot and read The Raven Cycle. The Raven Cycle is such a beloved series. It is very hard to describe. I first read them when I was 14 and the series wasn't even done yet, and I never finished it because I got busy with high school and I stopped reading like how I used to. There was a period of like a couple months in my freshman year of high school where, I kid you not, I was reading like 5 to 7 full novels a week. I was devouring YA fantasy like nobody's business. I'll admit, back in my teenage years, I was a little, I'm not like other girls, which is cringe. So yes, The Raven Cycle is an urban fantasy series that takes place in a small rural town in Virginia. The main character is named Blue, and she comes from a family where the women are psychic, and she lives in this house with a bunch of psychic women, but she herself doesn't have any psychic powers. So the book starts on St. Mark's Eve, which is when her psychic family is able to see the spirits of the people that are going to pass that year. And so they write down all those people's names so they know who will die that year. But Blue, who normally can't see any of the people's spirits, is able to see the spirit of one boy. And she asks him what his name is, and he says Gansey. And she says, "Is that it?" And he says, "That's all there is." And I'm so normal about this series, guys. And her aunt says that the reason that she's able to see the spirit is either 1, he's her true love, or 2, she's gonna be the reason that he dies. Stay with me, stay with me. She's also been told her whole life by a bunch of different psychics that if she were ever to kiss her true love, they would die. So like, you know where this is going, like, you know how this is gonna end. Now that's like the description when you read the back of the book, like that's the blurb it gives you, but that is not the plot of the series at all. The series is not actually very romance heavy. The actual plot of the book is that there's this rich group of private school kids and Gansey is the leader, and they're looking for the body of this dead Welsh king who they believe isn't actually dead but is just sleeping, and they believe that if they find him then they'll be able to get a wish. And through a turn of events, Blue ends up getting involved with them, and so they all go questing together in this small Virginia town trying to figure out where this king is. And yes, it does take them 4 books to do this. I will say the thing about these books is they are very hard to describe. Like I kind of gave you like the general description, but if you were to ask me like what actually happens in any of these books, I would not be able to tell you. It really is one of those, maybe the dead Welsh king was the friends we made along the way kind of series. It's more of like a character study. Like you really get attached to these characters. They just have so much depth to them and they just want things so badly and they can't have them. And like, don't get me started on Adam Parrish, okay? Adam Parrish is my baby. I feel like the litmus test for whether I would like someone is if they read the Raven Cycle and they don't like Adam Parrish, then I know that like we are destined to fist fight in a Denny's parking lot at 3 a.m. You know? Like I would take that as a personal offense. I would be like, go f yourself, never talk to me ever again. Same with Gansey. My Shayla, I love Gansey. Oh my god. And then oh my god, Ronan. And then like Blue, and then like Noah, and like, it's fine, I'm fine. But it's kind of hard to explain what happens in these books without spoiling things, because there's just so much more to the story, and there's so much magic stuff going on, and it's just really good. I don't know how to describe it. I always say that this is one of those series where like as you read it, you just know that the author is an objectively cool person, and Maggie Stiefvater is like the coolest person ever, and I wish I could just have a fraction of the coolness that she has. I swear to God, I have like so much to say about this series and I just can't conceptualize it and make it come out of my brain the way it needs to, because this series is so good, guys. It's so good. I will say though that the 4th book in the series, which this was my first time reading the 4th book, I hadn't read it originally because it wasn't out at the time that I read the rest of the series. I didn't like it as much as the other 3 books. Like the ending like did what it needed to do, but like the kind of main plot that like was added in with the villain and stuff, I was like, this is a little, I don't know. I was like, I think I need to like sit and like reread this series again to form an opinion on it. I think the 2nd book is my favorite. Oh my god, The Dream Thieves. This is like the girls who get it, and if you don't get it, then like that fucking sucks for you, but like you just don't get it, you know? It's just such a unique series, and I absolutely love Maggie Stiefvater's prose, and just the way she writes is so beautiful, especially just the things she says about these characters. And also I know I haven't read a ton of like objectively good books in my life, so me saying this is like, if you're someone that regularly reads classics and like really good books, then you're probably going to be like, this is just average writing. But to me, it's really good. Also, the series has some of the best fan art ever, like, but don't look it up unless you want to get spoiled, because there are major spoilers. But yeah, reading the Raven Cycle is just like the most jealous that you'll ever be, because it's like this group of friends that are just so in love with each other and just go on these fun adventures. Like it just makes you feel like you just want that. And they're just trying to find magic in this regular land that they live in, and they're looking at the ley lines and they're doing weird shit in caves and stuff with this magical forest and their dreams, and oh my god, the magical forest and the trees speak Latin, and it's just, oh my god. Yeah, if you're looking for something a little bit more unique to read, but also focused on some really 3-dimensional characters and some really quotable lines, I would recommend this series. I think as a whole, I would give the series like 4.5 stars. Maybe I'm biased. I might be biased. 4.5 stars. Shh, don't tell anybody. No, I really want to read the Dreamer trilogy, which is an adult fantasy spin-off that is focused on Ronan and the rest of the Lynch family. But also I hear it's really depressing and it's not as whimsical, and it doesn't have the other Raven Cycle characters besides Ronan and like occasionally Adam, and it's sad to think that like the whole team isn't together talking anymore, and like that's sad. But also I want to know more about Declan, because apparently people's like opinions of him change a lot in that series, so it's on my TBR. It's on my TBR. Over the summer, then I wanted something fun and whimsical to read to really fill in the void after finishing the Raven Cycle. So I decided it might finally be time to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, because I always see people talking about it online and they act like it's just the best thing ever since sliced bread. But I decided, you know what, I love to commit. I love big series, so let me just read the Caraval series first, because Once Upon a Broken Heart is like a spin-off series from Caraval. So, and if you've watched like the short videos I make too, then you would know that at this point in the year I got really sick with food poisoning and I had to go to the hospital for like a week. Then I took a break from YouTube and just kind of worked on drawing and art, and I did a little Dark Artifices animatic. I was listening to the Caraval series while I made that animatic. So, Caraval is about this magical game that takes place every year that's run by this guy named Legend. And it's just a performance. It's just a game, a magical game, and it's totally not real life at all, but like magical things happen and like don't worry about it. And the story follows these two sisters. And the one sister gets like low-key kidnapped by Legend, and the goal of this year's Caraval is to find her. So, the older sister Scarlet teams up with this suave sailor Julian to find her and win this year's Caraval. So, it's like her trying to solve all these puzzles and riddles and go around this magical island where all this whimsical shit's happening and stuff. So, and there's romance and all of that, yada yada. So this was my first time reading the Caraval series, and I was like, I really need to read something new that I haven't read before, because at this point all but 2 books had been rereads, and the 2 books that were new were just like additional books in the same series that I have read before. So, and I knew going into reading Caraval that it was going to be really cheesy and just kind of like a dumb fun read that was going to be kind of stupid, and that's what it was. So yeah, I would give this maybe like a similar rating to the Lunar Chronicles, where like in terms of enjoyment it was like a 3-star, but then in terms of quality like 2.5 stars maybe. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit lower than the Lunar Chronicles. I mean, I thought it was like a very fun concept. It was nice and fast paced, but it was like really cheesy and just kind of like peak early 2010s YA fiction-y. I liked Scarlet more than I liked Tella. I kind of found Tella to be annoying, although at least she had like more interesting plot stuff going on, because the author clearly favors Tella. But I wish that Scarlet was the main character in the other 2 books as well. By the end of the 3rd book, I was just so over Legend. I was so tired of that annoying ass bitch. If I ever see you in Legend, I'm gonna deck you in the face. But I really did like Jax, so I was excited for the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, because everyone says that that one is so much better than Caraval, and I was like, oh my god, I love Jax, and he's gonna be like the main character, like the main love interest. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That being said, I don't think Once Upon a Broken Heart was like better than Caraval. I felt like they were kind of similar in quality, which is to say not that much in terms of quality. I think people just like Jax and they like the idea of him having a romance, and so they were just like, oh my god, this series, oh my god, Jax, he's so hot, Jax. But yes, Once Upon a Broken Heart is a spin-off that takes place mostly after the events of the first, original Caraval trilogy. It follows this girl, Evangeline. The boy that she loves is engaged to marry someone else, so she strikes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, aka Jax, who is one of the Fates, aka these magical beings that are like low-key evil and like you shouldn't, make a deal with them. But she does make a deal with them. And he says that in exchange for 3 kisses, he will help her, with the whole boy she's in love with is getting engaged to someone else thing. And so she, agrees to this deal, but it ends up backfiring because he's basically like a genie where you gotta be careful what you wish for. And so she ends up escaping to the magnificent north to go to this party where the prince there is looking for a wife to be his queen. And then Jack shows up and he's like, yo, don't forget our deal, bitch. And then he uses these 3 kisses from Evangeline to accomplish some mysterious goals that he has that she is not aware of. And also his kiss is deadly to anyone who isn't his true love, and so she's not kissing him because like that would kill her. Wow, if I had a nickel for like every book series I read this year where like if you kiss someone like they would die, except for with this it's if he kisses his true love she won't die. But for the Raven Cycle, if she kisses her true love, he will die. But the Raven Cycle is so much better. But yeah, Jax needs Evangeline alive to like use her to do his evil plans that we don't know about, because I'm not going to spoil you. So obviously he's not trying to like kill her. But yeah, I honestly like Jax better when he was being all villainous in the Caraval series. Not that he's not evil in this series too, but he's just a lot more fun acting alongside Tella and being sassy against her. I just feel like his villainous tendencies weren't as fun when he's with Evangeline, because she's just like too innocent, and so it's just like not fun. With Tella, she kind of gave him back some of that sass, so like it had a more fun dynamic, versus with this she's just like, oh my god, I'm so nice, like I had no clue why he liked Evangeline. Like, I just did not buy their romance at all, which normally I'm like very easy to please. It's really easy to get me to root for a ship. But I was like, why does he even like her? Like, why is he so obsessed with her? And like, I have nothing against the softer kind of protagonist, but I don't know, I didn't really like Evangeline. I just felt like she was a little bit too clueless and innocent for me. I like my main characters to have a little bit more of a punch to them. And I didn't like the vampire shit. I was like, this doesn't fit with like the rest of the whimsical vibe. You know what I mean? Like, she had to do vampires. She couldn't do something like more unique. And there were things that just like weren't wrapped up at the end of the series. It just felt very incomplete, and it felt like it wasn't really following the plot that it had set up initially. And I didn't like that. There was just something weird about it. And I felt like she didn't plan out the plot and the series that well. The ending was very anticlimactic. I did not like the third book. I guess this is also like a 3-star series, like 2.75 to 3 stars. Yeah. Oh God, we're only halfway through this video. I've been talking for like 2 hours already. God. Okay, so then July, to follow up those series that I had read, I wanted to continue something with that whimsical vibe, but also I wanted to read something that was like actually good. I asked a coworker for some recommendations, and she recommended to me One Dark Window, part of the Shepherd King duology. And I looked up the reviews online, and they were like shockingly good. Like, there were a ton of reviews, and it had like a really solid rating on Goodreads, except for the first review, which is so funny because if you ever look up the first review on like any book on Goodreads, it'll be the most blazing 1-star review where they're like, "This is the worst book I've ever read in my entire life, and anyone who likes this book is a fucking idiot." And it's just always really funny because like without fail, every single book, it's always like the first review and then the other reviews are like, "This is a great book." But yeah, I disagree with that review because I thought this was such a solid duology. I think I'd give it like a solid 4, dare I say 4.5 stars. Like, I don't want to be too biased, but like 4.5 stars. Ooh. Maybe not in terms of quality. No, in terms of, you know what? For what it was trying to be, 4.5 stars. So the Shepherd King duology, first book is One Dark Window, second book is Two Twisted Crowns, is a gothic fantasy romance that follows main character Elspeth, who got this magical plague as a child that left her having this nightmare dude inside of her head who just like speaks to her mind in rhyme, and he's just like low-key super funny. I love the nightmare. I love him so much. So one day she's out and about and she gets attacked by these highwaymen, and she lets the nightmare control her body to go sicko mode on them. And then those highwaymen are like super impressed, and they actually end up going to her later and asking her to help them because they're not just highwaymen. They actually work for the king. The leader is the king's nephew, and he's the captain of the king's guard. They're trying to find these 12 Providence cards to stop this magical mist that's like plaguing the land and stuff. Don't worry about it. And all of these cards have their own unique magical abilities. And so they're almost kind of like a form of currency where the nobility have these cards because they're so rare and expensive. And it's really cool. Like I thought it was kind of like a fun, unique magic system. Not that like cards are like so unique and stuff, but like you wouldn't really expect something like that in like a fantasy romance, especially in like a gothic kind of fantasy romance. I don't know, I thought it was fun. And yeah, so they have to team up to find these cards, and her having like the nightmare kind of, oh, she keeps it hidden, by the way. Nobody knows that she has the nightmare thing inside of her brain. It's so good because the people who have the plague like usually die, and it's like a whole thing. But like she survived and she has like the nightmare. No one can know that she had the plague and that she has the nightmare in her brain. It's so good. And yeah, so they team up to find these cards, and you know, she has a romance with the captain guy whose name is Raven with a Y, which I hate, but like I ignored it because like the book was actually so good that I was like, I'll excuse it. And like meanwhile, she has the nightmare in her brain the entire time, sassing her and sassing everyone else, and it's so good because she's like a little bit more passive, and then she's just got this nightmare in her brain like, kill him. I don't care that he's hot. Let's kill him, you know? And the ending of the first book is actually like low-key insane, or at least I thought it was. I'm easily impressed, guys. I literally had to go to my little sister afterwards and just like explain the entire plot of the book to her because I was like, no, I need someone to talk to about this book. And as far as the fantasy goes, it was so solid. Like I felt like the actual fantasy aspect of it was written so well, but then also the romance was written so well, and like the yearning and tension was so good. It was so nice to have this male lead who actually like respects the main character, but like he isn't like a pushover. I did like my girl Elspeth, you know, like she's not too sassy or anything like how I usually like in a protagonist, but she wasn't useless. She was chill from what I could remember. I have a video where I talk about how I don't really like that much spice in books because I feel like the authors use it as a crutch, but like in this case, It was just done so tastefully. Like, I was reading it, I was like blushing, kicking my feet. I was like, oh, this is good. And then the second book was also really good too, and it expanded on the world, because that was kind of my problem with the first book, was just there wasn't enough world building to it, and like I was like, I needed to go somewhere. And then in the second book, it makes sense where like, okay, now all of that stuff, all those questions I had were answered. I will say I do remember feeling like the second book was rushed a little bit. Not the battle stuff, but like the kind of post climax epilogue kind of stuff, particularly with some of the characters like reuniting, shall we say. I'm trying not to spoil stuff, but I found a bonus chapter or something that was online, and it was like included in one of the editions, I believe. And so I was like, oh, like this is kind of what I felt was missing in the original book. So I would recommend getting the bonus chapter if you read the series. It's online, you can just search it up online. And then in the second book, there was also like a secondary romance with this other couple, and I was obsessed with that. I really liked it, and the fantasy stuff was really cool in the second book. I don't know, I thought it was solid. I didn't think I was gonna like the nightmare as much as I did. I don't know, it was so fun. Just having this little evil monster in your brain just being like, stop looking at that guy with Google eyes, we should kill him. Yeah, so if you're looking for an adult gothic fantasy, read this duology. It was pretty solid, I really enjoyed it. And because it was a duology, it was, you know, pretty short and sweet. You know, like I didn't want it to end, but like I didn't feel like it was excessive, you know? And then came August, and I finally read Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, which is her debut adult fantasy series. Currently only 2 of the trilogy are out, so I read both Swordcatcher and then the second book, which is The Ragpicker King. So, where do I begin? Okay. Swordcatcher follows our main character, Kel, who is an orphan who was taken from the orphanage as a child to be the prince's swordcatcher. And what a swordcatcher is the double body to the prince, who pretends to be him in high stakes situations and stuff, you know, so like if they try to murder the prince, then he gets murdered instead, and like the real prince is fine, yada yada. Yeah, so he gets plucked from the orphanage and he grows up in the palace alongside the prince and becomes best friends with Prince Connor, which is a stupid name for a fantasy. Like, you got Kel and then Connor. Kellyan and Connor. The fuck? And yeah, so now they're adults and the prince has to get married, and it's like a whole thing, and there's all this politics stuff, and there's also the other main character whose name is Lynn. So it kind of switches back and forth between them. They have like kind of different plot lines going on. So Lynn is a doctor who is part of a group of people called the Ashkar, and they're the only people remaining in the world that still have magic and can use magic, because there was something called the Sundering. I think it was the Sundering. Am I making that up? Did I make that up? Swordcatcher. Swordcatcher. I hardly know her. Yeah, okay, it is called the Sundering. Okay, I didn't just make that up. So yeah, there was something called the Sundering that happened a long time ago where all of the magic was destroyed. And so Lynn's people are persecuted because they still have magic. And so she lives in this small segregated part of the city, and she has some healing powers because she's like Ashkar and stuff. And, you know, due to certain circumstances and like a series of events and, you know, like a failed assassination attempt, Kel and Lynn end up meeting and crossing paths, and also getting involved with the Ragpicker King, who's like the criminal ruler of like the underground criminal part of the city. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I really liked the criminal parts. I liked the scheming. I liked the criminal people. I liked the Ragpicker King, because all of the nobility suck, and like they're supposed to suck, but they suck. So Swordcatcher, as the first book, was really, really slow and exposition-y, and it was like setting you up for the rest of the trilogy. So it kind of took me forever to read this series, because there was like a ton of names and stuff that, you know, it also doesn't help, like I was listening to the audiobook for this for most of it, like when I'm like half awake driving to and home from work, which I was not picking this up the way that I would have had I like sat down and actually read the physical book, which is what I should have done, which is also why I don't read like a ton of adult fantasy, because I don't really have time to sit down and physically read books. I usually listen to the audiobook while I'm like doing other stuff, and so that's why I need to like read these dumb books. But yeah, the things that did happen in the book were interesting, but unfortunately, there just wasn't a ton of stuff that happened in the book. Like, and it's a long book. It's a pretty big book. I think it's a big book. It's a big book for nothing to be happening. It's 604 pages. And like for 604 pages, the amount of stuff that happened was not great. Like the end of the first book was pretty exciting, you know? And that was the thing that like got me excited to read the second book. And I really liked the second book. I thought it was a lot faster paced. There was a lot more happening. There was more romance, and I liked the romance between Kel and his love interest. So yeah, I devoured the second book like really quickly, and I'm pretty excited for the third book. I do have some theories for how the third book's gonna end, which if she does what I think she's going to do, I would be satisfied. But knowing what I know about Cassandra Clare and her tendency to just like write endings that are not the best, I am a little bit concerned. She ate with the ending for the Infernal Devices and for the Mortal Instruments, but I don't think that the ending for the Last Hours or the Dark Artifices was very good. So it's really a coin toss whether she sticks the landing or not with this series. The world building did leave a little bit to be desired. I did get someone I know to read the first book and they were like, the world building is shit. And I was like, okay, I didn't pay attention. I was too busy wondering when Kel was gonna kiss his love interest. Okay, that's why I'm reading the series for. That being said, I really did like Kel as a character. I don't know why. And like, not even like a, oh my God, he's so hot and dreamy kind of way. Just like, I was just like, yeah, that's my boy, like that's my bro right there, you know? And I fucking hate Prince Connor. I hate that annoying ass you motherfucker, you boring ass annoying ass motherfucker. Oh, but the ending of the second book was pretty good though, I will say. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. Oh my God, and there was this plot twist that was like so obvious in hindsight, and like it took me an embarrassing long amount of time to like figure out the plot twist. It's not even a plot twist, it was just figuring out like something that I should have figured out sooner. I'm kind of embarrassed about that. Like, it just wasn't on my radar. Like, I just wasn't thinking about it. It has something to do with Prosper Beck. For those of you who read the series, like, you're gonna be like, you dumb, how did you not figure it out? The romance was good. I liked the romance in the second book. So when I was reading it, I was like, I would give Swordcatcher like 3 stars, but then like, in comparison to like the Lunar Chronicles and Caraval, like, it was a lot better and it had like lore and like a little bit more depth to it. So then like I feel like it's wrong to just give it 3 stars. So like maybe like 3.5 tentatively. But then also this is supposed to be an adult series, so like I'm kind of ranking it on a different gauge as well. This gets 3 stars and then Ragpicker King gets 4 stars, so then like overall it's 3.5 stars. Where like Caraval is below 3 stars on average. So after finishing the Shepherd King duology and then Ragpicker King, I went into a terrible book slump because I just could not read any other book because I was like, I do not want to read this book. I want to read the next book after the Ragpicker King, but it does not exist yet. It has not been written yet. And I'm like a mood reader where like I need to be in the mood to read a certain book, and the only book I was in the mood to read was the next book in the Swordcatcher series, which there is none. I also just like had a lot going on. I was sewing costumes for the Renaissance Fair, and then I went to the Renaissance Fair with my friends. I went to Disney with my friend Rachel, who I've been friends with since we were like 7 years old, and it's crazy, like we've almost been friends for 20 years now. And then I was doing like a ton of thrifting and stuff, trying to get decorations in preparation for this murder mystery party that my friends hosted, and that was really fun. And then like I spent some time, I took footage of the murder mystery party and like edited it together a video vlog so the people who attended the party could watch it. And then I was getting like costumes and stuff for Halloween, and we also went to the Ren Fair a second time that year because I was like, one's not enough, we gotta do 2, guys.
Get it, girl. Have a lot of it. Yeah, bring it!
Alright, let me pass it to the small one.
Every ounce you got!
Yeah!
So I'm sorry that I like wasn't working on that YouTube channel. I was doing all of that stuff instead. I kept myself busy this fall. So this is kind of where all of the books that I didn't finish reading happened, you know, all of the DNFs. I started reading This Woven Kingdom, which I heard is like really, really good, and the author is Iranian American, and I've been trying to read more books by people of color, and I was like slowly chugging my way through for like 2 weeks, and then it was time to return it on the Libby app, and I hadn't really gotten into it, but I do want to read it later. I think I was just in a bad book slump, and I just like, it was not the thing that I needed at that time. I was just not in the mood to read it. So I do plan on reading that later. Like I didn't finish it, but it's like I put it back on my TBR, you know what I mean? And from what I did read, like the writing was pretty good. It was just really slow in the beginning and I just like couldn't get into it. Then I started to read Defy the Night, which was like recommended to me by a different coworker, and it sounded like something that I would really enjoy, like this nice little, you know, like fantasy romance. And I think it had like a similar thing to Swordcatcher where like the main character was like a healer kind of person, but that was like right around when I was going to Disney and I just zoned out and ended up like not reading it, and then I had to return it, so I also didn't finish that, but like I put it back on my TBR. And also at this point, you know, we were getting weekly releases of The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3, which I was watching with my sisters and my friends, and I was like a little bit obsessed with that. So I thought like, oh, I should read the book series. I'll know what happens and then rest of the episodes, and I can kind of get this out of my system. And they also had the audiobook, which was narrated by the actors in the TV show, which is so cool. And I was like, That's awesome. I'll listen to that. And Lola Tung was like such a fantastic narrator. She did such a fabulous job narrating that audiobook. That being said, you is that can say, oh my god, the book is so much better than the TV show are fucking liars. No, it's not. The fucking book sucked. It sucked so badly. It was terrible. It was boring. Nothing happens. The show like improved on so many things. It made the characters so much more likable. The characters are kind of terrible in the book, and I did read it in one sitting, and like my brain just felt fried afterwards, and like I tried to start the second book, but like I just couldn't do it. I was like, this is terrible. I DNF'd it. I was hoping that, you know, a super dumb easy read like that would help me get out of my reading slump, especially since I was so obsessed with the TV show. The TV show is one of those things where it's like, it's so bad it's almost good, but it did not get me out of my reading slump. Oh, also I lied. I did not read 38 books this year. I actually read 39. In October I read Little Vampire's Big Smile, my most anticipated read of the year. It follows Birdie, a vampire who loses his tooth at a Halloween party. And it was just a really beautiful deconstruction about what it means to be a vampire. Warning, it was a little bit of a heavy read. It was a little heart-wrenching, you know? But like, I felt like the ending was really satisfying. It had like a really good twist. Highly recommended, 5 stars. So then at that point, I gave up. I said, you know what? I was trying to avoid this. I was trying my best to read new books, but I decided it was time for Old Reliable. Because without fail, I know that if I'm in a reading slump, the following series is going to help me get out of it. And that series is none other than the Selection series. Can I get an Amin? Can I get an Amin? This is the good right here, okay? This is crack, okay? So, The Selection is a YA dystopian romance series. I think the marketing quip that they used was, it's The Hunger Games meets The Bachelor, which is such a disservice to The Hunger Games. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like, because it's like The Bachelor if it was with a prince and took place in a dystopian kingdom. So picture this, it's far in the future. We've already had World War III and all of that. And all of the countries have switched back to monarchies. I'm sorry, you can hear my like nieces and stuff laughing downstairs. There's nothing I can do about that. America is no longer America. It's called Ilya, which is the stupidest, dumbest name ever. All of the different countries and characters in this series have like the dumbest names. I don't know what kind of crack the author was smoking, but it's wild. So yeah, when the prince of Ilya is of age, they do something called a selection, where girls who are also of age can apply to be in the selection. There's a lottery. One girl from each province is picked and flown to the palace and compete to win the prince's heart and become the next princess and eventual queen of Ilya. And in Ilya, there's this caste system where 1s are the royal family, 2s are like the military and guards and stuff, and then it goes down where 7s are like maids and stuff, and then the 8s are homeless. And the only way out is to like marry up or like save a crap ton of money to like buy your way up, or if you like get drafted to be like a soldier or something and then you become like a 2, or you win the selection and you become a 1. So our main character is named America Singer. Yeah, her name's America because the country they live in used to be America. And her last name's Singer because she's a singer and her family is like a family of artists. Ain't that just swell? But yeah, she's like a 5, so she's like underprivileged and stuff, and she didn't even want to get selected, but she put her name in because her boyfriend told her to, because if she did get selected, then she could like get money and help her family, and they think, well, she's probably not even gonna get selected anyway, but then she does get selected, but she's not like other girls. She doesn't actually want to be with the prince. And a love triangle ensues because of course it does. This is peak early 2010s YA dystopian. And then there's this whole plot where there's these like rebels that are trying to break into the palace and stuff, and I think this is the only dystopian that I know of where like the rebels are the bad guys and like they're trying to convince us that the government are like the good guys. It's a very weird series that's just like solely focused on the romance. Like it probably would have been better if she had just gotten rid of the whole dystopian part, or if she had focused more on it, because the amount that's included in this book is just kind of criminal. It's enough where like the characters should be more concerned and like the book should be focused more on it, but like it just isn't, because it knows that's not what you care about. Like they just have it in there for some drama, so then like, oh no, the rebels are trying to break into the palace, quick, oh no, I'm stuck in a safe room alone with the prince, what are we gonna do? Like, you know. And America is like the most annoying ass character ever, and I can't stand her, and it's literally the stupidest series ever. That being said, I think I've read this series more time than any other book in my entire life. This is my comfort read. I read it so much. Honestly, I think I've read the series more than I've read The Infernal Devices, and that's saying a lot. But this is one of those series where like it's so bad it's good. If I gave Caraval like 2.5 stars, I think this is similar quality. Like I would also give this 2.5 stars. But like in terms of enjoyment, this is a 5-star read. But guess what? It doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there because guess what? There's not just 3 books in this series. There's 5. There's a spin-off and it's terrible. No, she calls it a companion series. She says like these are books 4 and 5 of the series, but it's like a spin-off series and it's f***ing terrible. These are so bad, it's good. These are so bad, they're bad. Spoiler alert, this follows Maxon and America's daughter. Yes, America wins the selection, spoiler alert. And normally in Ilia, princesses are married off for like political reasons and stuff while the princes stay in Ilia and have a selection. But they decided that they're gonna have their daughter be the first princess of Ilia to have her own selection. And if America was annoying, Eadlyn is the most stupidest oh, her name's Eadlyn, by the way. It's spelled E-A-D-L-Y-N, Eadlyn. It's this, her name's Eadlyn Shreve. What the? She's the worst person to ever exist. She makes America look like a saint. She makes me feel like, I'm like, wow, America was so much better than her. At least America had the excuse that she like grew up underprivileged. Like she was a 5. She really had to work hard for like what she wanted in life and stuff. But Eadlyn was born to like a life of extreme privilege and she was still a bitch and a terrible person. Like, I could not stand her. And these books aren't even entertaining. Like, they have the most gorgeous covers ever. Like, this is the most gorgeous cover ever. But these are just terrible. They're not even, like, that entertaining, and the romance sucks, and it makes no sense, and I don't usually reread these when I reread the selection series, because, like, these just don't exist in my brain. That being said, the whole series is, like, really short, and the text is also, like, huge and like doesn't even take up like the full page. So like I read all 5 books in like less than a week, and that's including having work and other responsibilities. Then in November I read Divine Rivals, which is a fantasy romance duology. I only read the first one though. Like I did start the second one, but I was just busy with other stuff, so like I put it back on my TBR. I'll read it eventually, hopefully, probably, maybe. It takes place in this like alternate kind of World War I era London, except it's not London, but like it gives London, where there's this war going on between these 2 gods, and the main character Iris works for this newspaper, and she has this rivalry with the other intern Kit, who is also working at the same paper, and they're both trying to like get the head spot and stuff, so they're rivals. And Iris's brother left to go fight in the war, and then she ends up becoming a war correspondent to try to find her brother, and like going to the front lines to write about the war, and then she also has like a rivals to lovers thing going on with Kit. Oh, and her and Kit are actually pen pals because they have these magically linked typewriters, but they don't know that they're writing to each other, which is cute. I found this book to be kind of slow, not gonna lie. Not a ton happened. Like the whole war correspondent thing didn't even happen until like halfway through the book. And then I felt like the romance was really rushed. I did like Kit as like as the love interest, but then it just felt like their romance was a little rushed. Like it went 0 to 100 real quick, which is sad because I really wanted to like this series and I heard so many good things about it. I don't know. I maybe the second book might be a little bit better, but I'm not sure, you know? I was just looking for like a little bit more. I would give it like 3 stars maybe. Like it was just a little average. And then lastly in December, the only book that I read was the second book of Divine Rivals, which I didn't end up finishing, but I might in the future. And then Spectacular, which is the holiday-themed novella that's part of the Caraval series. And it was a really, really weird novella that was supposed to be like a holiday-themed novella, but it was just a little freaky. I don't know. Merry freakness. I was like, this is a weird plot. It was really mid. Like a 1.5 star novella. I was like, the f is this? All right. Time for the awards ceremony, the book Oscars, if you will. Do you know what this says? It says, Academy of Comedy presented to Bree for committing to the bit. This was a gift from my friend. Thank you, Chloe. All right, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to award the best overall book of 2025 that I read. It goes to none other than...
Do you or a loved one suffer from Astriola, also known as demon pox? You may be entitled to financial compensation. Call 1-800-DEMON-POX. That's 1-800-DEMON-POX for more information.
Yes, you guys know that Sunrise on the Reaping was my number one. It's probably the only book in 2025 that I read that had actual literary merit.
Obviously including The Hunger Games. Also, f*** you past Bree. The Raven Cycle was good. I don't care. The Raven Cycle was good.
And the fact that the best book that I read is a spin-off YA book about a death match says a lot about the books that I choose to spend my time reading. But the themes of the book with its discussion of propaganda and implicit submission just felt very appropriate for the year 2025. And I think it did a good job of getting you to think, especially since it's targeted towards a YA audience, so it explains these things in a way that like anybody could understand, which is great, you know, makes the youth think. I should probably like use my brain more. Award for best character goes to, drumroll please, Adam Parrish. It's really hard. It's really hard for me to pick. It has to be one of the Raven Cycle characters. I was stuck between Adam Parrish and like maybe Gansey. I think of that quote where it's like Adam Parrish was tired, just like tired of like all of it, like oh my god, Adam Parrish. I think second place is Gansey. I love Gansey. Award for most fun scene. I have to say, out of all the books I read, I think the most fun scene is the battle in Cress in the Lunar Chronicles when, spoiler alert, when they go to kidnap Kai. Just that whole section of the book is like my favorite from the Lunar Chronicles, and it was just as great to read the second time. Like when Thorn kisses Cress because he promised that he wasn't gonna let her die without having her first kiss, and he was like, oh she might actually die, and Thorn's blinded and he has Cress hold on to the gun with him and he says, do me a favor, make sure I don't shoot anybody we like. I was gagged. Oh my god, I truly have not matured. Like, what do you mean I'm an adult? Saddest book. You already know the saddest book was none other than Little Vampire's Big Smile. Really, really. Sunrise on the Reaping. Sunrise on the Reaping. Although, not gonna lie, the ending of the Raven Cycle, that really threw me for a loop, man. The most exciting ending. That's a hard one. I like how I'm like holding this like an Oscar. I'm like, oh my god. like people are asking me what I think about these books. No, I just wanted to yap about books for 3 hours. Yeah, this is hard, but like the ending for the Ragpicker King, like as I was reading it, was just so good, and I was like, holy shit, like, oh my god. But same with the ending to One Dark Window. Like I was shocked reading that. Like I had my jaw dropped. But the ending of the Ragpicker King had that like reveal at the end, and so you know what, like I think that makes it go a little bit higher. I'm gonna say the Ragpicker King was like my most exciting ending. Most annoying character. What? I totally didn't make this category just so that I could complain about Eadlyn Shreve. You dumbass ass motherfucker. I'm gonna have to censor all of that, and it's just gonna be... There were villains and dictators in the books that I read this year. President Snow was a character in 4 of the books that I read this year. And yet, when I thought about the character that I hated the most, your face came up, Eadlyn Shreve. I would put you in the Hunger Games if given the chance. F you. And last but not least, the horniest book I read this year. This has to be a tie. This has to be a tie between City of Lost Souls and Two Twisted Crowns, because Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the Shepherd King duology, the one with like the nightmare guy in the brain. It was so funny cutting between Raven and the nightmare and everyone on this dangerous, life-threatening mission, and then just like cutting to the secondary couple getting it on. They were just in their own little world. They were having a good time. They were horny as hell, and they were gonna do something about it. But also City of Lost Souls just has so many makeout scenes and like scenes with like weird tension and all of the characters just being horny as hell and like sexy blood drinking and stuff. And like, even though it doesn't have any like sex scenes or like explicit scenes, honestly, maybe it has to go to City of Lost Souls, because it was just so freaked out for a YA book. Like, I'm doing the video right now for City of Lost Souls and it's so freaked out. I love it. Okay. Overall, it was a decent reading year, I think. I mean, I read like a lot of books. I read a lot of average books, but that makes sense because the average book is going to be average. But yeah, my goal was to read 5 books this year, so I think 34 is pretty good. And I would like to say something. I am sorry that I did not make more videos this past year. I had an actually insane and busy year, as you can probably tell. The funny thing about this YouTube channel is it's very time consuming, and I do love making videos and talking about books with y'all, but also it requires me to put my other hobbies and interests and spending time with friends to the side a bit. So the years where I make more videos are usually the years where, ironically, I don't really read much. I read a lot of books this year because I wasn't working on this channel like how I was the first couple years when I started this channel, when I never left my house and I never hung out with friends, and my life consisted of going to school/work and then just coming home and doing nothing. So that being said, I do miss working on the channel more. I gotta do it. I worked on it like non-stop the past couple days, so like I will lock in we're getting it done. We're chugging along. But yes, my birthday was at the end of December, and as I get older, I'm trying to read like a little bit less YA. I mean, obviously I'm gonna continue reading YA, like that's my bread and butter, but I want to branch out and start reading a little bit more adult books and things that aren't exclusively YA fantasy, although obviously that's still gonna be my main thing because that's what I enjoy. I also just want to read like better written books in the future. Just like going over the books I read in the past year and how many of them were just like objectively bad, but like I still enjoyed them, but they were objectively bad. I just feel like such a loser fake book fan because I just read dumb YA books where my main focus while reading the book is whether my ship is going to be canon. Like,
okay, I just wanted to put a quick disclaimer because I feel like I was a little bit harsh on YA as a whole. Just because a book is YA doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or dumb, and it's not something shameful to enjoy YA books even if you're a little bit past the target audience. And also, if you enjoy dumb, more lighthearted books, that doesn't mean that you're dumb for enjoying it. And if you enjoyed the books that I thought were bad, that is also cool, and I don't think you're wrong or anything. I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like I get a little sad when someone dislikes a book that I like, especially if it's a book that you really care about, and then you try not to take it personally, but you do. I mean, I'm not a judgy person. Like, my favorite books are the Shadowhunter books. I'm really not in a place to judge.
There's a whole discussion to be made about books and the rise of anti-intellectualism and also the decrease in quality of books since book talks become a thing and just, you know, in recent years, and also what my responsibility should be as someone who has a platform and makes money talking about books. Like, I feel like I should have a higher responsibility to be reading more diverse books than the average person who is just reading for fun. But also, my channel is not really like a book channel. Like, it's more of like a comedy Shadowhunter channel. So like, I don't know. I try to be a little conscious about the stuff I say in my videos, and I want to do some more fundraisers and donate money and such again this year, like how I did last year with my City of Fallen Angels video. I couldn't donate any money from the animatic I made because it was copyrighted because of the music, but I also want to read more books by people of color. That is stuff that I got to put like a conscious effort into because my bookshelf is just like overwhelmingly white. But also, I don't know how much I will read this upcoming year because I wanted to focus more on the YouTube channel, which means less time for reading, which is funny to think about. And also, I've just been like hanging out with friends a lot this year. Yeah, I was hoping that this was going to be like a funny, entertaining book, but it just ended up being me rambling about the books that I read because believe it or not, I do enjoy talking about books, and that's why I started this channel, even though I started the channel as a joke and then it ended up becoming a real thing because, as we know, I commit to the bit. So thank you for watching and letting me ramble for an excessive amount of time. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you have any opinions on them, or if my comments about these books have made you want to read any of them. Thank you for joining me over this past year. I'm sorry I haven't posted as much, but you guys are so sweet and I love reading your comments, and I hope you've all had a fabulous 2025. And I hope your year's going off with a great start, and I'm at 2,200 subscribers, which is actually insane to think about. Yeah, let's have a good year together, guys. I will see you all next time, hopefully soon. Yes.